So, Sarah, I'm so happy to have you back as my guest.
It's really good to be back, Sylvia. And I always look forward to our conversations.
And you just completed some work recently. Can you speak on that work that you recently completed?
And we're talking about the work in the TV show, right?
Yes.
In the network television world. Yeah. Yeah. National TV, doing some subconscious work with hypnotherapy and a little bit of energy work here and there, but mostly it's more of the subconscious work out there. It was quite the adventure and learning experience, I think, for all of us, but what a blessing. It was a true blessing.
And where can people watch this work that you did
So
on?
it's on TLC. It's on a network television show called 90 Day The Last Resort. It's a spin-off series of 90 Day Fiance. And so you just go to TLC. It's on HBO Max, or if you have television. I don't even have television, Sylvia, but I know that you can watch it on HBO Max and those types of things.
Okay, I personally watched it on Hulu. So,
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
yeah.
help me out with the word.
Yeah, I just skipped to the episodes where you were on it, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. And oh man, yeah, it's a lot of mirroring, and I won't get into too many details on the TV show itself, but just we think that like all of this is just for drama, but if we really pay attention, it really does mirror some common things that happen in our own lives. So I encourage people to pay attention.
Yep. And what we're talking about today will be some of those things as far as personal relationships, anyway. So, about a year ago or 2 years ago, I did a podcast episode about parental and familial narcissistic relationships and abuse. And today we're just touching on that again because throughout life I meet people who are in similar situations, but they might not know the signs and they might not know the dangers. And the woman I spoke to at the time, Lisa Romano, she mentioned that it could get dangerous. And, you have these tiny events that happen. And if you try to step back, you can find yourself in a dangerous situation. So it's something to take seriously as far as recognizing the signs. So, Sarah, I know you said you have some experience dealing with a narcissistic relationship. The first thing I would like to ask you about is if you can define, because people throw the term around all the time, narcissist, if you can define that, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. And I've had several experiences, both in the family and outside the family in intimate relationships. So, um, kind of multi-layered there. First, I want to say that it's way more common than we would like to talk about, and the reason that I think we don't see it or catch it or recognize it is because it comes from the least suspecting place of all, which is our family. And we can talk about that in a moment, but that's the place where we're supposed to have the most safety and trust and love and nurturing all of these things. And so we're not really looking out for that, right? We're not really looking out for danger in that zone. Um, to touch on narcissism, I want to touch on it from two different perspectives. I first want to touch on it from the compassionate perspective of the individual with the narcissistic personality. Um, and that is this: underlying with every narcissistic personality, there is a very injured, almost beyond repair, inner child. And what we see happen then is this, well, grown grown up child. In a way, they are still operating from this very childlike place, in a very destructive way. Obviously, we know what happens when children throw temper tantrums, right? Just imagine that though with the experience and the knowledge of an adult. So it could be pretty manipulative. It can be pretty sneaky, sly, and very, very destructive very quickly. From a more psychology perspective, narcissist really is someone who, at all costs, has like an ego dysfunction that basically the world revolves around them, that everything revolves around them, including you. They use people as their tools, not as relationships. And it's because they don't know how to be in relationship. And basically, what I'm trying to say is these people act as either the hero or the victim. And I dislike that word. But we're saying that they are not actually a victim. We're saying that they choose to take on these roles or these positions based on whatever will suit them in order to, by the way, maintain control. So in the narcissistic personality, there are many different definitions. I think you could go Google it and you can find so many different definitions describing it. Underlying here is a big inner child who seeks to maintain control at all costs.
Yeah. And you'll find in their temper tantrums or when it comes to a head, when you realize what's going on, the things that they'll do, their outbursts, um, you realize and you kind of feel bad that they're really just still a child. They're
Yeah,
very childish.
yeah,
But a couple of things that you mentioned there. So I did notice regarding using, narcissists tend to have a more transactional relationship. And they do come in, some of them, in my experience, my personal experience, two that I can identify as narcissists, come in with like bearing gifts. It starts with gifts. Like everything is, hey, I'm giving you a gift. And then they kind of try to ingratiate themselves with you. And then you feel, or they at least they hope you feel that you have to give them something back. Now, these gifts you don't even ask for, but you don't know that there's a motive behind them giving you these things. So you're just going on living your life and it's like, oh, they gave me something I didn't really need it, or you're working on something, they're like, "Oh, I'll help you with it." What you find out later is their motive is to say, "Without me, you couldn't have done that. I made you," so on and so forth. So have you noticed that in your experience with in your practice and with your personal experience?
yeah. Well, and the second part to that is, well, I did this for you. You should be so grateful. You should feel guilty almost for my position in your life of giving, 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 even though you've taken up that mantle yourself. And so it's always this, like you said, it feels like a game sometimes, right? This very, very sick game of positioning things in a way to always position themselves above you, even if it's just slightly, right? So if I'm giving you a gift and you're taking that, now you owe me something and you don't even realize that you owe me something. Okay. So it's a game that most people are very, very innocent in at first, anyways, that they don't even realize that they're playing. But through several exchanges back and forth, this kind of like, take the rope, you took it, now I'm pulling. Take this next rope, now you took it, now I'm pulling. Is always going to be, like I said, this teeter totter of I'm either poor me and you should feel bad for me and come to my rescue, or I'm the hero, I'm the best thing that ever happened, and you'd be nothing without. Now, those are very extreme, ends of the spectrum, and they're very also extreme
Yeah.
kind of dances to take. But at the end of the day, that's what we're really dealing with here. And the way that I've seen this show up in my relationships, and then also in the therapy room, is first of all, how we notice it is a lot of confusion. Like it's very confusing, and we feel very distorted. It's like the person who is on the receiving end, I don't want to say victim of a narcissist, on the receiving end of narcissistic personality, is that there's a lot of confusion. Like, do I have a distorted sense of reality? Am I are my feelings even accurate? Is what I'm feeling even real? Why do I feel the way that I feel, right? And so that's number one, how I see it show up. But how I see it show up, number two, is always like, um, yeah, I'll give you a prime example. A client that I'm working with right now, actually, who's getting out of a narcissistic marriage. And there's these nightly walks that they do where the narcissist uses that as an opportunity to talk all about himself. And it's the only thing that he's willing to do without her begging him to do it. And I said, well, of course it is, because he gets something out of it. He gets to talk about himself. Meanwhile, you're getting drained and you didn't even realize that you had signed up for this like exchange of leeching per se on your energy source. And so he keeps doing it easily. You don't have to ask him because he gets something out of it, and you walk away drained.
Yeah.
Change usually happens.
And what I got out of some of the things you were saying that reminds me of the situations I was in. So also what goes along with them trying to position themselves as the hero and as the person who made things happen is the invalidation and belittling of what you actually do. So, and what I realize is there's a lot of lack of effort or work on their part. It's like they want to ride your coattails. They don't want to do any actual work. So what they do is they throw money at you, or they just say, "Oh," they belittle you and say you didn't do anything. So I'm above you without having to do anything, technically. And that's what I've
Yeah,
noticed about the patterns.
yeah, yeah. And in some ways, it's money or it's something else, whatever is easiest for them to get. Right? It's never what you need. It's always what's easiest access for them to get, whether that be money or whether that be that's usually the easiest, by the way, if you have it. But if you don't have it, then it's other things like just normal things like I took care of you when you were younger. It's like, uh, thank you. Thank you for taking care of me as a young child. I'm not sure how to respond to that, but things that are just kind of like a natural loving action would be perceived as a debt.
Along with that, um, with keeping, well, here's some advice I got from a narcissist once. I
From a
was in
narcissist,
a, sorry,
you
what
said
was
from
that?
a narcissist?
Yes. But
Okay,
this was
okay.
before I knew the signs and everything, but it was
Oh, okay.
culminating. So I was dating the guy, the second narcissist. So I was dealing with one narcissist and dating another one, but the other one was really easy to get rid of because I was just dating him. And there's a point when someone's just disrespectful and you break up with them. So it was to that point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to break up with this guy. And then the person in my family with these narcissistic tendencies is like, no, keep him around. You never know when you'll need him. I'm like,
Oh,
why would
wow.
I keep him around? He's a jerk. But then months later, when I realized that they were using me, I'm like, that's why. You just keep everyone around in case you need them for something.
Yeah, the truth is that they're peoples in general, whether you realize that you're dealing with a narcissist or not. People in general will tell you how they look at you and how they're treating you based on how they speak about others and how they treat others. That's a telltale sign of like, well, wait a minute. Is that why I'm around?
Yeah. Yeah. So going on with narcissistic relationships in the family, I won't say abuse right now. It can get there. Um, what would you say is the underlying cause in a family or the underlying motivator for that person to continue to try to use and manipulate you in some way?
Well, I would say this. I would say that abuse is probably the right word. Whether it turns physical or sexual in some cases or not is kind of besides the point. Abuse is taking advantage of somebody's vulnerability, period. And oftentimes this narcissistic abuse starts from a very young age when we are innocent. So taking advantage of my innocence and my purity absolutely is abuse. So just psychological, mental, emotional abuse. I would say even in adulthood, sometimes before we even have an awareness of that, before it becomes awareness, it's innocent and it is abuse. Like you, the person, the narcissist knows exactly what they're doing and the purity of the person until they wake up to the fact and have awareness of the fact are being abused. Not that they're well, actually, in some cases, yeah, there is definitely victimhood with intense narcissistic abuse of a young child. And I'm so sorry, but I derailed. But what is the question again?
What is the underlying motivator? And I'll give you one of the things that I know was a motivator, and one of them is competition. So unfortunately,
Oh,
some
yes.
parents see their kids as competition. Like they didn't get to do what they wanted to do, so they're trying to kind of trail you throughout your life to kind of prevent you from fulfilling the things you want to do. Like they try to give you bad advice, they try to stick around and be a burden on you. They're in the way of your relationships. It's like you turn around and you're like, okay, this person is everywhere, and every time they're around, everything slows down or comes to a halt. So competition could be one of them. And I think insecurity is at the core, that's the base of
Yeah.
narcissism.
Oh, definitely. You're spot on with that one. Insecurity of the identity and trying to maintain the identity. Okay, I've got a few things here. I'm just gonna throw them out to you. Number one is control, right? If that comes back to insecurity, you're absolutely right. How do I maintain control? Number two is validation. I want my character validated. I want my importance validated. I want to feel that I am validated, and I will do that myself. I'll make you do it, but I will definitely do it. You know what I'm saying? As a narcissist. Okay, number three is importance. They have to always feel like some special, very, and this is going to kind of tie in with relevance and significance, but feeling significantly important in your world at like in any way, right? And a perfect example of this is, in my family makeup, um, I grew up with a narcissistic personality. And it doesn't matter what it is, it always comes back to her. It could be now the prime example of this, right? Um, it could be I'm pregnant right now. So I'm pregnant and we announced this news and it's not, oh my gosh, congratulations, you're having a child. It's, oh my gosh, I remember when I was pregnant with you. And, so these types of things, always this back to me, importance, relevance, significance. Also, redemption is another one. A lot of times, the narcissist is trying to redeem what has passed in their own family makeup, which is, it's sad, sure. Like, hey, let's bring awareness to that, but let's not excuse the behavior because there was some abuse for their lives. Okay, I'm trying to redeem what has passed. And then another one though is jealousy.
Yeah.
And this can probably link into, a few of the other ones. But I know that like if it even appears that you are better, smarter, something in an area, then there's a jealousy and it will come out and it will come out in strange ways.
Yeah, and that's where the belittling and the invalidation come in. They'll be like, "Oh, you did that. Oh, well, you probably didn't really do it." Or, "Oh, you probably used this," or "You probably cheated," or anything
Yes.
they could do to invalidate it so you aren't really competition and they're not envious.
Yes.
Because sometimes, yeah.
Or they will preemptively do it in other ways.
Oh,
Like
yeah, yeah.
if you here's a good example. If you like spill the milk or drop some things, it's, oh, that's just Sarah, she's so clumsy, she can't get anything right. So it's like chipping away at the character in other areas so that even your accomplishments don't even feel good.
Yeah, and even just talking about this makes me just it brings up memories and it's just
Yeah. I can
makes
tell.
me angry. I'll just put it that way. But
Yeah, and especially when you have like these specific examples, you're just like, oh yeah, people are like, oh, I've experienced it.
yeah, it's just not fun people to be around. It's like but anyway, so redemption, that part is a big one and I was going to bring it up, but you brought it up, which is great because it tells you how predictable these people are. They have a pattern and they all follow it. So, with one of the narcissists I dealt with, within her family growing up, they would say certain things about her. And unfortunately, because I kept her in my life so long, she would say things about me in a way so that she could say, "It's not me, it's her. All those things you said about me, it's her." So she'd be like, "Oh, she this, she that, she that." And they can't see how it's two separate situations. You can't pin all the things that they did or didn't do in their life on someone else when it's actually a different path. But they think they can trick people into thinking, you know, I I'm free of all the things I did. Look at this person now who's 20, 30 years you're her junior after their generation. But yeah, I did notice that that's one of the things. So if you get in their situation and they're able to successfully use you in a certain way so they can attain one of the things that they didn't attain on their own, then you get caught up in that pointing the finger and no, I'm the one who did it, that person. And they think people are simple enough to actually uh, not pay attention to the differences and not pay attention to the fact that they're trying to point the finger or that they're trying to eliminate their own history.
Yeah, projection 100%. I think the thing about projection is that we don't even realize that we're doing it. But another thing, another redemptive part of that is that let's just say, okay, let's just say grandpa. Um, Grandpa belittled my mom, making her feel that she had a lack of worth and value. So this turns into, with a narcissistic personality, this never-ending search to redeem that which has been wounded. So I know I am valuable, I am worthy, and I'm going to prove it at any cost. And so, see, look what I did. I raised you. So, see, look what I did. I gave you this. See, look what I did. I've done so much for you, and you take advantage of it. And you're the crazy one because I'm the one who's been doing all of this amazing stuff for you because I'm worthy and I'm valuable.
I'd like to bring up some things that listeners and viewers can watch. So there's a movie on Netflix called Con Mom, which I really recommend. She was able to manipulate multiple people with ease using her age and money, throwing money at people, throwing empty promises at people, and then accusing them of abuse after, which is just a horrible pattern that some people use. And then there's a really sad story that came out of Germany. I never actually looked it up because it's too sad, but so a girl grew up in a household. I wouldn't say it was narcissistic abuse because there was no clinical, I'm just going to say that it patterns it, but she grew up in a household. The dad was very abusive and she was leaving, but she announced it. And somehow he got her, locked her in the basement, had children with her, had them locked in the basement, and she was only freed. I believe someone came to the house, and this was like 20 years later, sadly, um, when someone like saw a child or something, and she was finally freed from the basement. She was white haired. Her children were white haired because he kept them locked down there. And that's how far someone can go for control. And in my situation, it did get dangerous because I unfortunately helped someone with a big purchase with a home. And you know how people say they'll marry someone and then that person flips like a switch flicks? Well, what happened is when I did that, because it was a big life event, for me, it wasn't because I was treating it as an investment and I'm actually in an investors network. So I had, people around me to kind of help me navigate the investment. But for her, it was a big event. It was a redeeming thing. Like, look at me, I finally have a house kind of thing. And when realized what was going on, because she was treating the home like it was her home, she's telling everyone it's my home. She's just living with me. She's living off me. And if I decorated, she would take it down. She'd take down decorations. It was crazy. And then she did a triangulation event, brought in all the family members who've hated me for years for insecurities and other reasons, and just treated me like I wasn't even a homeowner. And this is all, you could look it up. If anyone cared, you could look it up and see the deed. But that situation became dangerous because they were trying to um, accuse me of abuse, and then they were trying to provoke me to do something that could have been very dangerous. I'll just put it that way. Like they were trying to provoke me into acting out physically so they could act out physically, and then they can. Because as you know from the previous podcast, when I was a kid, I was hospitalized for depression. So I think what their goal was, we're going to get her to look crazy, and then we're going to corroborate information, say she's crazy, get her locked up, or, whatever. So they had their options on the table, but they were obvious options because I'm not an idiot. So it's just like, I know what you're doing. I'm just going to shut up and call my lawyer. And I had to sit through that misery for months. But, since they're so predictable, I was able to do it. It was just misery for a number of months.
Yeah, and it often does, once legal things get involved, it often does turn into that. You need to protect yourself by silencing yourself in a way, so as not to provoke the beast or show your hand. And I've dealt with a few individuals who were getting out of narcissistic marriages that is somewhat the same. It's very much you now have to begin thinking differently in order to escape from out from under that, at least from the legal perspective, and sometimes in some ways like the safety. But the example of the dad in Germany with that story just, oh my gosh, you hear about these things and you just realize how the world can be. But I also think that there's a couple other things in there aside from narcissists, like psychopathy and some borderline personality disorder to drive somebody to do that. Because mostly, if narcissism starts to push the edge too far, it also becomes something else, right? To a certain line of the edge, we have extreme narcissism or minor narcissism. But once we tip over that edge, we've crossed into different territory.
There's a couple of things that I need to cover based on all that info I gave, including the story that about the German girl. So one of the things to look out for is this strong desire for control. Okay, so there's strong desire for control and to win at any cost. There have been stories where narcissists will burn down something just so you can't get any of it. Or in the case of Lisa Romano, her spouse stopped paying for the house so that she had to, things like that. The father in the story about the German girl, he wanted total control and he thought her life, he made her, so her life was his, and he can make children with her. It was just that's the extent they're willing to go for control. And once you actually see that, you realize how much danger you're in. And that's why you can't announce. There's even, I know you focus on Christianity a lot in your practice. There's even a story. I learned it from a rabbi. I was listening to rabbis on YouTube. I do every now and then. Don't ask me why. I just do. I think they have good advice. And he gave this story, a Bible story, about a stepson who was helping his stepfather grow a business. And the stepfather's like, oh, basically, I made you. And the problem with the son is he announced he was leaving. And then the father's like, oh, you'll always come back. You always come back. You'll be nothing without me. And he didn't get away until one day he just didn't announce it and he left. And then he made his own kingdom and it was a thriving empire and everything. But you're never supposed to announce it. And when I broke up also with that guy who had the narcissistic tendencies, I literally just blew up on him on the phone and I said, enough. And he was like shocked. And that was it. You know, you have to come at them with surprise and then never re-engage. What do you think about that advice?
Well, I think it's good because I've learned that the hard way too, getting out of my narcissistic marriage. That the moment and like you, it was kind of sudden. It was just like one day I was like, I'm done. That's it. I made my decision. Because every other time it was discussed, it was like this tug of war, this bait and switch, this whole game that tormented me more and more. Just the process was tormenting. And so one day you just make that decision. You're like, yeah, I'm done, and I'm never looking back. I'm going forward. But in a marriage, it's harder because there's a process legally to go through, and now the war begins. So I often advise people, as a practitioner, to work behind the scenes, get all the information that you need to know, and only share the information like once you've done it already, or in writing, especially when the attorneys start to get involved. So you have to play a little sleuthy, and sometimes people feel bad doing that, and it's not a natural way to think. I will say it's very unnatural, but you have to if you want to get out safe.
Well, it's unnatural as a way to think, but the way that the narcissist is functioning is unnatural
It's
because
very
they think they
unnatural.
own you.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
And
and I know you want to talk about some signs to look out for. So is it okay if we go into some of those?
yes,
So one of the things to look out for is isolation. The narcissist will want to pin you against people in your life that you've been close with or whatever that may be. Family, friends, other family members, if they are in your family, any friendships that you do have, they'll all be, perceived as bad, these types of things. So definitely isolation to make you feel weak. Remember that it's always to make you feel weaker. And also just, lack of community is it definitely does weaken our character and our resolve and our emotional stability. So
Okay, so those signs, and then maybe transactional relationship, love bombing, with
so
through
love bombing is a
gifting
big
or,
one. Love bombing is a big one. And here's what you'll see. Another sign is this either on this end, grandioseness,
oh yeah.
right? This grandiose, like it's over the top, almost like you're amazing, you're the best thing that ever happened. And it almost seems disproportional to what they either know or like what it should be. It's almost like a little unnecessary, but you eat it up anyways. Or the other end of that spectrum, it's this extreme positioning of poor me, wounded me. You should feel guilty about me and my condition. So it's either way over here. You're amazing. I'm amazing, which will always flip later, by the way. Or the extreme end of the spectrum is poor me. I am a poor wounded victim and I need saving.
Okay, and sometimes they position themselves as a supporter, right? So there's a famous doctor who speaks about narcissism all the time. I tried to get her on my podcast, but she's always busy. Um, so she talks about she did a demonstration, like physical demonstration, where she's like, "So here's a narcissist. They see you standing, and they're bringing a chair. They're like, okay, let me help you." So they bring the chair over, and as you go to sit down, they pull the chair and that's, it's a rug pull. That's their, that is
Yep.
part of their game.
Yep. Yep. It's always the luring, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, this happens in an emotional sense as well, right? That I'm going to treat you the best that anybody's ever treated, or even the promises of nobody will ever love you the way that I love you, these types of things, right? Another thing to look for, though, is the gaslighting. And we haven't talked about that yet, but it's the number one thing that people talk about anywhere, about narcissism. They don't really know if people know what gaslighting truly is. So, shall we?
Yes. Can you describe that? I did cover it in my previous podcast, but I didn't label it as gaslighting. So can you please describe that?
Yeah, and it's somewhat similar to projection, so it's kind of hard to pick out. But gaslighting is essentially basically this flip of the script to make you feel as if what basically we're seeing this a lot right now in society too, by the way, as a collective. But it's this flipping of making you feel like um, let me think about how to phrase
You're
this.
imagining things.
Yeah, but also like what you're feeling, they're actually feeling
Mm.
because of what you've done, rather than no, you're feeling what you're feeling because of what I've done, and I'm sorry, and I own that. It's a now I'm feeling this way because of what you're doing right now, and you're just like, wait, what? How did we just totally flip that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and there's also that that I know, yet you're saying that I don't know. We both
Yes.
know what you did. And I think the best example of gaslighting is in the movie Guide to the Married Man. It's from like the 50s or 60s. And just look up the scene, Guide to the Married Man. So he's in bed with another woman. His wife comes in the room. She sees him. She's like, Harry, or whatever his name is. And he starts getting up, just composed. And his mistress starts getting up and getting dressed composed. And he's like, "What, darling?" And then she's like, "Harry." And then he continues getting up. Eventually, he's sitting down in his chair by the bed, smoking a cigar. The mistress left the room, and he's like, "What, darling?" And then she looks around and she's like, because the mistress is gone, everything looks normal, and she's like questioning herself, "Did that? I see what I just saw?" So that's like a perfect visual example of gaslighting, I think.
That's so funny. That's so funny. And without so many words, that's exactly what happens because you look around and you say, wait, so and you actually do begin to think like I'm the problem. I've had many people in my office that say, I need to come to counseling because my husband or wife or whatever says that our marriage is suffering because of me or whatever it may be, or because I need to change because I'm harming my relationship. And I swear to you, Sylvia, whenever I hear that, I go, we're dealing with a narcissist. If anybody who comes into my office and says, fix me because I'm going to lose my relationship because my partner said I'm a problem.
Mm. Well, and I think some people they recognize that they know the truth, and the narcissist hopes your mind is that. Well, I don't want to say that your mind is that simple or malleable, but they hope you'll be confused. And it's an insult to some people. It's like,
Well,
yeah, no.
yeah, well, and this is why the love bombing, right? Because we've just done the gaslighting. And so now we need the love bombing to add confusion because now in my brain, I'm thinking, wait, so but they love me. They've told me all of these things. They've really showered me with all of this praise and all of these things. That can't be right. So I am the problem. They are a really good person and I'm not, you know. But then the truth is, by the way, that this happens very slowly over a long period of time. It's not very quick. So that's why it is easy to become kind of
Yeah.
hooked by it if you don't know, when you don't know.
Yeah, the frog in the pot slowly boiling.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so there are three things. One, I keep bringing up pop culture, but so people can quickly go like, "Oh yeah, that song from the 80s, that Don't You Want Me baby song from Human League.
No, you
That's it.
want
Just
me.
listen to that song. It's a narcissistic abuse song. I'm telling you. Just listen to the
Well,
lyrics."
Sylvia, I think that there are a lot of songs out there that are quite unhealthy attachment style, if not borderline narcissistic.
Yeah, and then I know we have to wrap it up, so just a couple more things.
Yeah,
So one of the tactics, triangulation, if you have children, one of the things I notice they might be willing to do is try to manipulate your children. Either
and
try to talk to your children in private and say, "Hey, your parents this, hey, your parents that," or because they want to take you down so bad, it'll be icing on the cake if they could also affect your child's life and just say, this person is a complete failure because they managed to affect you and your child through abusing you.
yes.
So that's showing
And if you're
again.
the child on the receiving end of that, you might feel that one parent is severely manipulating the situation to make you hate your other parent.
Yeah. And one thing you have to watch out for if you have narcissistic parents, grandparents, or whatever, is if they do target your children. Um, that you have to be mindful is it can go down the line generationally. They can target your kids. They can target everyone's on the table for them. No one's off the table.
That's
So
right. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. And
And
the
sorry.
thing I want to say just to the audience really quickly is this will help you be able to identify all other signs and symptoms. Remember that the first goal of the narcissist is to make you their best friend, is to make you love them, rely on them, and see them as a supporter, and that you can't do any of this without them.
Yep.
So
And a
if you have,
perfect.
yep. So if you have somebody positioned in your life that way, that's the first person to start raising an eyebrow. It doesn't mean you have to start speculating right away, but just start to pay attention to the other things, right?
Yeah. Are there ways that you can kind of decipher whether they're overly concerned with showing you they're caring versus someone truly being caring, and maybe having their own life and their own things that they focus on enough at the same time? Because I think I noticed with narcissists is they focus a lot on their target more than they focus on themselves.
That's
They
right.
focus on someone who's growing and they jump on that person growing rather than growing themselves.
Yes. So the thing to look out for is, does it feel intrusive? Care, genuine care, authentic, loving care should not feel intrusive. And it should not feel disproportionate to like where I am. And it also shouldn't take away my power. Grandparents will do this a lot too. They will just jump in and rescue Tommy Boy and all the time and call it care when it's really just this positioning of themselves in the position of hero once again. So is it intrusive and is it proportional to where I am in my growth? Is it actually caring? Is it actually helping me? Or is it just like coddling?
Okay. And in closing, so we have to. wrap it up. However, I will say that when you're going through these issues, like this issue I described that I went through, when people hear it, they don't want to hear it. So there tends to be a lack of support that I've noticed from others when you're going through an issue like this. So where can people turn to get support, to be heard, to be recognized, especially when it's in the family and it's like, oh, it's just family, families are, where can they go? Because it can become dangerous, just like I said in the examples.
I'm going to tell you one thing. Most of the time, it's going to be outside the family and people that don't know the person, or people that do know the person and have already escaped their out from underneath their thumb. Those are the people that will truly understand and be able to support you. You can seek support through therapists, number one. You can seek support through, there are so many groups out there for narcissistic abuse, so many groups. And if you don't already have friends, seek friendships that are objective to the situation, not in it, and not in a relationship with the person that you perceive to be a narcissist. And get the support that way. The biggest thing that people need in narcissistic relationships is support, because in order to leave that situation, which feels like a jumping out of the nest, then you really do need that support.
Okay. And do you have any closing words on the topic, or would you like to share any information about your retreats or about your recent work on 90 Day Fiance?
Yeah, I'm doing so much one-on-one work now in an intimate way with my clients. And so that would be the number one way I would want to reach people at this point. It seems like people from narcissistic abuse find me often, whether it's parents or relationships and marriages, seems so common for me, which is great because I love to help in that way. And then you can see more of my work on TLC on the 90 Day Fiance, and then also my book, Sylvia, Affirmations for Peaceful Life. And you can find that on Amazon as well. But my closing thing that I want everybody to know is that, first of all, if you are in a narcissistic place, don't say anything. Don't give your cards away for first. Seek support and help first so that you feel guided. Number two is it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It can happen to anyone. And it usually happens to the most sensitive of us and empathic of us. And the last thing I want to say is if it has happened to you, or if it is happening to you, it's because you are pure to the extent that you're not even able to see that it's possible to act this way towards another human being. So there's an accolade for you. But play it smart, start to grow your own awareness. Like you, Sylvia, I myself, when I noticed it, I was just sponging in videos and resources to like help me in any way. And then I sought out a therapist to help me. And between her and my dad, I was able to get out.
That's excellent advice. And please don't go back into the fire after a few years of being away. That's my advice.
Yeah, and in order to do that, you have to cut the cord.
Yeah, there
You
are more
cannot dabble.
yeah, there are more people to experience in the world, more relationships to be had, and I think humanity's evolving in a way that they can draw the line with their family if necessary for their own safety and health and peace. Well, Sarah, I'd like to thank you for joining me again. I think this was a very informative podcast, and I'll be sure to leave a link for listeners to listen to your podcast, read your book, and catch you on 90 Day Fiance, and also attend your retreats.
Thank you, Sylvia. It was a pleasure. I feel like we could talk forever. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.